Good morning. You join me this morning with a proper little bit of real life because I'm putting the kids' laundry away. But I thought it would be a good chance to just pop on and say hello and give you a little, I don't know, blow by blow of what's going on today. It is the first day of the school holidays. So the kids are off school today. They are very excited about it being the Easter holidays. We haven't got many plans today. Tom and I are taking some time off over the 2 weeks of the Easter holidays. They've got 2 weeks off. So today is Friday. They're off today and they go back 2 weeks on Monday, I think. And yeah, Tom and I are taking a bit of time off, but Tom's taking Wednesday to Wednesday off. And I'll probably take the same days off because it kind of makes sense for us to be off at the same time. Which means that I have got some work to get done today. But the boys are quite happy with that because, you know, first day of the school holidays, they kind of just want a day where they can chill. They don't want to do anything complicated. It's beautiful weather outside at the moment. It's really bright and sunny, although I think there was a bit of a frost this morning. So I've said to them that they can watch TV, they can play computer games, they can have quite a chilled day, but I would like them to spend at least a bit of time outside in the garden. So we'll see how that goes. I need to pop to the post office shortly to drop off a few parcels. I've also got, can't work out whose pants are whose. I've also got, I want to carry on winding the stripes, which I should be able to do kind of quite easily around the kids because I can set myself up at the dining table while they're playing in the lounge, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. And I've got a little bit of dyeing to do. I need to dye one batch. Sorry, pause again to work out if I'm putting the right pants in the right drawer. And yeah, I've got one batch to do. It's, what is it? Somebody ordered a colourway dye to order, so I just want to get that dyed up this week so that it's kind of sorted and done, if that makes sense. We've got somebody coming to fix our shower a little bit later on. For anyone that is new, we currently rent the house we're in. We've been in this house nearly 3 years, I think. It'll be 3 years in July. We are in the process of trying to find somewhere to buy. And if you are a long-term follower of my vlogs, you'll know that back in October time, we did actually have an offer accepted on a house and it all fell through, very frustratingly. So we've kind of put we've kind of put it on the back burner a little bit at the moment. We're keeping an eye out. We're just continuing to save as much as we can. And we're just keeping an eye out until something else comes up. We don't want to move the kids from school, and we kind of want to find somewhere relatively local. So that's kind of restricting what comes up. Yeah, so we're in the process. But anyway, my point of all that being that we currently rent and the shower is broken, which is fun. It still works. It's just that the bit that holds it onto the, I don't know how to explain it. The pole that goes up against the wall, the bit that holds the shower onto the wall, onto the pole has broken. So you can't kind of, if you have a shower, you have to hold the shower. Which is fine for the kids, you know, it's not a big issue, but it's a bit annoying trying to wash your hair when you're having to hold the shower up as well. Anyway, all of that to say that we have somebody coming to fix the shower a little bit later on. So I need to give the bathroom a clean because I do. You know, you have to, don't you? When somebody's going to come and go into your bathroom, it needs to be cleaned. So that's my morning really, putting away laundry, cleaning the bathroom, and then I can get on with a bit of work. Right, the boys are upstairs in their bedroom. They've just had another parcel arrive from my parents, who have sent them a book each. So Arthur's taken Jasper's book upstairs and is currently reading Jasper's book for him. It's like a spot and find kind of thing. So I think it's jungles, animals around the world, I think it was, and you have to find all the different things in the pictures. So they're enjoying that upstairs at the moment, which is lovely because it means they're off the screens for 5 minutes. Our shower has been fixed, although they have put in like a cheaper shower head and stuff like that. So we have just ordered a better shower head that we can replace it with. But the main part of the shower that was broken is now repaired. Anyway, before I start rambling completely, I'm clearly still winding stripes, and somebody commented the other day on how they didn't realise that I had to wind all my stripes by hand. And I thought it might be quite interesting to explain kind of the processes involved, for me at least, when it comes to self-striping, because indie dyed self-striping can be quite expensive and it can seem very expensive, but there's a reason for that, because it is very time intensive and labour intensive, certainly for me. So I thought I'd let you know the steps. So for me, there's kind of a 4 steps, I guess, 4 major steps in terms of the self-striping. First of all, every skein that I want to dye, I have to cake it up before I can do anything with it. I then warp it on my warping board, which I can't show you at the moment because I'm using it, but I'll show it. In fact, what I will do is I will get a little bit of footage of my warping board so you know what I'm talking about, and I'll pop it up on the screen while I'm actually talking. So yeah, I then warp the yarn on my warping board, and warping basically, it means that you're taking a skein of yarn which is obviously at a certain length per loop, I guess, I don't know, and you are turning it into a longer skein basically so that you can divide it up into sections to dye, because to create self-striping you need to dye certain lengths of sections of yarn in one colour so that you get your stripe, if that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining this okay. So you have to warp it to do that. There are various ways of warping. I use a warping board and I warp in a way that creates kind of loops of yarn, which I know are a certain number of meters long. Some systems actually turn your skein into like a long 15, 16 meter skein, and then you separate off how many meters you separate off sections into how many meters. I've looked at getting a warping mill that can do that with, but all of the kind of ones that I could actually afford and could fit in my house, which is the major factor, you can only warp up to, I think, a 16 meter skein. Whereas with my stripes, I tend to need kind of 20 plus meters to create my colourways basically. So I could use one, but it wouldn't work for a lot of my existing colourways, especially any that have got kind of 6 stripes. You can get like giant warping mills, but I don't have space for one of those. Anyway, so that's kind of the first 2 stages. Is first of all I have to cake it all up and then I warp it. I have tried warping it straight from the yarn on a Swift, but it doesn't really work for me. I just haven't got the space to kind of make that work. And then once it's warped, you tie it all off so that you know it's safe, take it off the warping board. Then the next stage is to actually dye it. Each skein, for me, I dye every single skein individually. So each colour goes into the pan, 1 skein at a time. And yeah, so that happens. So basically I have a pan, a saucepan with the colour that I want in, and I use immersion dyeing to dye that specific colour on that bit of the skein. I then steam the skein afterwards as well, just to make sure for absolute certain that those colours are set, because the last thing I want is to have a skein with like a red stripe and a white stripe and a blue stripe, and then when you wash them, the dyes run. I mean, with self-striping, that would be a nightmare. So I doubly set mine just to make sure that you're not going to get that. And then obviously then you have to kind of, after it's been steamed, you then have to rinse it and dry it as with any yarn. But then with the self-striping, once it's dried, it has to go back on the warping board. And then it needs to come off the warping board. And because of the way my warping board works and my setup, the easiest way to get it back off the warping board is actually by hand. I've tried getting it onto a Swift and then kind of skeining it, but to be honest, it actually takes me longer. And if I get any kind of tangles or anything like that, then I can't work around those tangles without it ending up in a giant knot. So it is actually easier for me to hand wind them off the board, which is why all my self-striping is sold in gobstoppers, because it's the only way that really works with my technique at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of processes involved. I mean, it takes me probably 15 minutes to warp a skein. It takes me probably 15 to 20 minutes, well, probably about 20 minutes to dye a skein. And then it takes me probably about 30 minutes to hand wind a skein. So you're looking at over an hour's work just for a single ball of self-striping yarn, which is why they're not cheap. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work that goes into them. But yeah, I hope that's kind of interesting. I know that it can seem quite a magical thing, self-striping. And I think understanding the kind of processes involved can help understand why it's not as common and why it's harder to do. Anyway, I really need to get on with this.
The island of Gaunt, a single mountain that lifts its peak a mile above the storm-racked northeast sea, is a land famous for wizards. From the towns in its high valleys and the ports on its dark, narrow bays, many a Gauntishman has gone forth to serve the lords of the archipelago in their cities as wizard or mage, or looking for adventure to wander working magic from isle to isle of all Earthsea. Some of you might recognise those opening words from Ursula Le Guin's famous Earthsea books. So I'm cheating, right? Book of the day. This is a book of books. This is a collection. So there's maybe 5 books in here, plus extra stuff. So this is the Earthsea collection, written by Ursula K. Le Guin, and it's a kind of a series of fantasy books set in a place called Earthsea, which is a kind of an archipelago of islands, and there's a nice map at the beginning, so that's Earthsea, and it mostly follows a famous wizard called Sparrowhawk or Ged, depending on the version of his name, and it kind of follows his life, becoming famous and fighting evil in various ways. But across the books, you get lots of different kind of perspectives on the world, and it's one of my favorite books actually. So I'm starting my contribution to Book of the Day with a powerhouse, one of my all-time favorite books. So I mean, I love it because I love Le Guin's work generally, but Earthsea was one of the first book of hers that I read, and I recently went back and reread all of them when this compendium came out. It was last year or the year before, and her prose is just so consuming and so evocative. She's one of the few writers that I read that I feel very present within the kind of the richness of the world that she creates. And so if you like fantasy stories about wizards and fighting evil and mysteries to solve, and even if you don't, then I recommend that you read the books of Earthsea. Yeah, that's book of the day for today.